So there's a coffee shop I really like going to. It's called Portfolio, and it recently closed down. The landlords raised the rent and they had to go to some other place. So whilst waiting for their new location to open up, and hopefully they keep the same staff, recipes, and get stuff from the same bakery because they have these cinnamon pull-apart things that I really like. I just been kind of venturing out, finding different coffee spots, which usually ends up just being Starbucks. But since I lost my smell and taste, there's like little hints of smells and tastes that I can pick up on. And there's something I've noticed specifically with Starbucks, and that is about 75% of the Starbucks have this really funny aftertaste. The 25% roughly that's left over has like a pretty normal, the way I remember it, kind of aftertaste. And of course it's not exact, it's not like dead on, being that I can't really get the essence of anything, but like I can pick up on like whether something's sweet, sour, savory. And every once in a while I'll get little hints of the way flavors actually are. So anyways, I gotta go out of my way to go to this other Starbucks. It's in the wrong direction. It's in a part of Long Beach that just sucks to deal with because there's just like a lot of traffic and lights and people running around. So I park and go in and I get my coffee before I get my food. So I set my coffee on the counter right there and I'm like sitting at the table like waiting for my food. And my coffee, mind you, was like, I don't know, 5 feet away from me. Like it's like off the corner of the chair that I'm sitting at, because I set it as I walked around to sit down. And then this guy comes in and I definitely notice him because he's wearing this like sweater vest, but it's like really sweaty. You can tell that he's just been like very active in it recently. And he was a really tall guy and he had a lot of energy. Like the way he like moved into the room was like very aggressive and sort of like get out of my way-esque. And he like walks in and he walks over to like the water fountain or whatever. They have like a little water dispenser there and he's getting free water. And then he like walks over behind me and I'm just still waiting for because it's all out of my peripherals. And all of a sudden I start hearing, hey Dan. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy's asking if his friend Dan's here. Certainly he's not talking about me. There's no way that this guy knows me. This guy certainly doesn't look like he skates, so he has no reason to have an idea of who I am, and he definitely didn't look familiar. But then he says it like one more time. He's like, yo, Dan. And he goes, all right, bet. And I turn around and he's like, has my coffee in his hand. He was reading the name Dan off of it, just being like, I'm going to take this if someone doesn't claim it, and starts walking out. And I'm like, whoa, like, hey, that's my coffee. And he's like, oh, no, it ain't. I just called your name. How come you didn't say anything then? And I'm like, because I'm watching you walk away with my coffee right now. I didn't assume that you would know my name. So when I hear my name, I'm not thinking this person knows me. Give me my coffee. And he was like, nah, this ain't your coffee. You're lying. And he was like, show me your license. Show me your ID. And I'm like, it's in my car. Do you want to go over to my car? I'll go grab my license, but I shouldn't have to. It's my coffee. And I'm looking at the barista and I'm like, you know, kind of signaling like, hey, say something to this guy. Like, I don't want to like get in some argument in the middle of a Starbucks. Not the way I want to start my morning. And she's like, yeah, no, that's his coffee. Like, give him his coffee. And then the other guy behind the counter was like, no, I'm just going to make you a new one. Because this guy's like, oh, handling my coffee. And at this point in time, I'm starting to think this guy's a little out of it. And then he like kind of gets up in my face and he goes, is your coffee? Swear to God. And I'm like, as if like if I swore to God, that would somehow validate my claims that like, no, this is my coffee. I swear to God. Like, oh, you brought our Lord and Savior into it? Oh, for sure, it's yours. So he's like, so he ends up handing it to me. So I end up taking the coffee back and I go over to the counter, and then the guy working there takes the coffee from me and just throws it away. And he's like, no, I'm making you a new one. And I'm like, oh, which obviously really upset that guy because he's thinking, oh, I could have still had that coffee. They ended up throwing it away. So he ends up talking to this lady who's like also waiting in line. He's like, oh, this guy's a fucking bitch. Little bitch ass boy. Little broke ass bitch boy. And I'm like, you're stealing my coffee and I'm the broke one? Like, what? This is crazy. And then she wants nothing to do with him. Like, she's like doing this like weird, like very uncomfortable crouch. So then the barista's like, dude, you got to get out of here. Like, you're making my customers uncomfortable. And then he's just like, nah, I want to get my water and leave. But he already got his water. So I guess he wanted to get another water just so he could like make the point to stay and be extra annoying. When I finally get like my food and my coffee, my remade coffee, as I'm walking out, he's like, yeah, that's what I thought, bitch boy. And then in that moment, like my phone fell out of my pocket because I had plugged into my charger and it had like the cord going from one pocket to the other, and it just snagged and pulled my phone out and it like fell on the ground. And he's like, pick your phone up, broke ass bitch boy. And I'm just like, at this point, I'm just like laughing at him because it's just like, oh, of course my phone falls out. I look like an idiot. But he's just like still like having the weirdest power trip of me dropping my phone. Like you could tell that like when my phone came out, He was like, it was like the highlight of his day. He was like, fuck yeah, this guy dropped his phone and I saw it. And so I ended up I just ended up picking on the phone. Like, all right, dude, like, have a good one. This guy clearly wasn't all there. I'm not exactly the kind of guy who wants to like defend my honor against some dude who just like running his mouth at me, because clearly this guy's situation is way worse than mine. I'm off to go skateboarding. Like, I am like getting my coffee and I'm going to go skateboard and have the time of my life and really enjoy my job. Whereas this guy, drenched in sweat, stealing coffees, clearly not having the best go at life right now. I'm not gonna try to make that dude's life any worse if he's not making my life significantly worse. And the inconvenience of the coffee was more amusing than anything. Shocking at first. When he like took my coffee, I was just like damn, like you got some fucking nuts. But anyways, I get my coffee, I go to my car, I start eating my food, and I start driving to where I'm going, and then I see that guy. He's riding on a sketchy rickety bike. He's like a little kid's bike that he's riding. Definitely looking like he's having like the struggle of a lifetime. And so like I'm staring at him as I'm driving by, and like I'm seeing like the contrast of like, okay, this dude's like riding this bike. This is how he's getting around right now, and I'm like in my car. And I couldn't help but feel really bad for the guy, but at the same time, it's just like, you got to wonder where that line is. Like, did this person end up in this position because this is the kind of person he is? Or was he born in this kind of position? Or is this how his family is? Is this how he was raised? There's so many different questions that like pop in my mind of like how to handle those situations. And I think just from like people in my life and myself, like having different like mental issues and stuff like that, it's really hard for me to be like harsh these days when it comes to like something like that, especially when someone's not there, and especially when it comes to like the homeless, which he seemed like he may or may not have been, or at least not have like a sturdy spot to be. Because I definitely feel like 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, I feel like 8 years ago, I would have been so much more aggressive with that guy. Like, I would have been pissed. First of all, I would have probably ruined my day. I would have definitely been like, this guy's fucking up my morning. This is my coffee. I haven't had it yet. This guy's being an asshole, blah, blah, blah. Not really taking into account like maybe what his situation is. Even though there's no valid reason to steal from someone, it certainly does help to see where someone's coming from and why they are stealing and blah, blah, blah. So though it is not right, I think there's room for understanding. But that guy's definitely in Long Beach, and I'm definitely gonna run into him again. And hopefully I'm not that easy to recognize, because I'm just like a white dude who wears just like pretty basic clothing and has just like but I was wearing my flannel hat that I always wear, so maybe he'll recognize me next time I wear that, because that hat's still in rotation. But I don't know, I feel kind of good about how I handled the situation. Like, I didn't let it escalate. I ended up getting my coffee anyways. I ended up being 2 minutes behind schedule of what I already would have been, and I left early anyway, so I ended up being still early. But I think what's so jarring about it is imagining myself do that, or like you imagining yourself. Like, can you imagine going into a place and just being like, I'm coming up on this coffee, and then getting confronted on it, and then being angry at the person who caught you? Like, that's gotta suck, man. Like, regardless of where he was or how aggressive he was being, there's no way that he wasn't feeling all types of awkward on the inside and was probably trying to cover it up with just being like aggressive. Because that's pretty common with like children. You know, you'll see like, you'll catch a kid doing something wrong and they get really defensive. They're like, how could you ever? And like, you know, I remember being a kid doing that exact same thing, thinking I'm like covering my tracks, because it's like, they're going to see that I'm passionate about what I'm doing, and they're going to understand that this is real. When you're an adult though, you're like, this is the biggest pile of bullshit ever. You're not fooling anyone. There's no way that cookie jar got smuggled into your room by someone that's not you. Like, I don't understand why you're being so defensive. But, you know, when you're a kid, you're like, I didn't bring it in, I swear. I don't know, I thought it was an amusing story, and I haven't posted on here in a second. So there's that.